Kenny carefully surveys the Reiss Estate, biding his time for the perfect opportunity. And finally, his moment arrives, when Frieda and Ymir take the bait and meet with the Royal Council. Kenny moves swiftly to eliminate the workers at the estate. He then confronts the family while they are engaged in prayer. Kenny wants to avoid unnecessary violence against Reiss family, so with precision, he places a knife against Rod's throat and delivers a message to the others. Frieda is to meet me at the underground chapel. The faces of the Reiss family are filled with shock. How could an outsider know of that room? Before his attack, Kenny was meticulous, encasing every inch of the Reiss Estate, and that's how he found the staircase inside the chapel. As Kenny turns to leave with Rod, he catches a glimpse of movement in his periphery. From an unlit corridor he believed to be empty, he spots a man lunging at him with a kitchen knife. Reacting swiftly and without confirming his attacker's identity, he evades the strike and counters by effortlessly slashing his attacker's throat. Ulklin, Frieda's older brother, drops to the floor, Rod tearfully calling his name as his blood oozes across the floor. Kenny, now extremely annoyed, firmly restates his terms before exiting the house, dragging a tearful Rod with him. Frieda's mother collapses to the floor in shock, while the youngest siblings begin sobbing for their brother. Outside, Rod's eyes widen with disbelief as he takes in the trail of lifeless bodies. He accuses Kenny of betraying Uri's mercy, only to receive a cold response. Kenny accuses the Reiss family of betraying Uri's vision by once again purging the Ackermans, and with a dismissive gesture, he knocks out Rod and drags him to the underground chapel. He ties Rod to one of the crystal pillars and begins to wait, his mind filled with thoughts on what he'll see once he possesses the power of God. Frieda enters the throne room, her blank expression barely masking her foul mood. The Royal Council drops to one knee, their show of formality barely masking their evil intentions. Without wasting any time, Frieda demands to know the reason for her summons, anticipating the Council's usual accusation of negligence towards her people. However, to her surprise, they offer to redistribute their wealth and power to help stabilize Walsina. They even present Frieda with a set of reforms aimed at eradicating the corruption from the military police and royal government. Frieda remains silent. She is suspicious of their sudden benevolence, but she doesn't know what they're aiming at. So, when the council asks for her blessings, Frieda states that she'll need time to think it over, and she exits the throne room. Geralt wonders if they bought Kenny enough time. Aurelie says yes, and highlights the Reiss Estate not having any armed guards. Deltoff, another council member, questions if they're all ready to implement the proposed reforms if Kenny fails. A somber silence descends upon the room, revealing that the plan was for a worst-case scenario where Kenny fails and they need to reassert their loyalty to Frieda by granting her desires. We also see disgust in all of their faces, showing how much they despise the prospect of giving up any of their wealth. Outside the throne room, Frieda goes over the events with the Ymir. Going into the meeting, they knew something was up, but they were expecting a possible ambush, not this. This plan, there's no way it's genuine. But if it's not, what was their true objective? Ymir suggests they hurry back home as quickly as possible. Reiner and Annie watch the pair from the shadows. They're hoping for an opportunity to capture them without transforming, so they remain patient and begin tailing them back home. Frieda arrives at her estate, her heart sinking as she takes in the horrifying sight before her. Servants, some of whom she's known her entire life, lie lifeless on the ground, their throats ripped open, and she sees the trail of dead leading straight to her house. The memories of Historia's death begin to flood her mind and cause her to be overwhelmed with panic. Ymir, recognizing Frieda's distress, gently suggests that she step away and allow her to inspect the house, but Frieda refuses. She wants to see it for herself. She approaches the door. Taking a deep breath, she opens it. and what greets her is her brother's lifeless body sprawled on the floor. She finds her mother sitting down beside the wall with her arms around Florian, Dirk, and Abel, their faces completely blank. Frieda tries to talk to them, but the trauma has broken them. Only her mother is in a relatively stable mental state. She tells Frieda everything that happened, including Kenny's final message. She then pleads with Frieda not to take the bait. Frieda exchanges a somber look to Ymir, who nods and gently lifts Uklin's lifeless body. She then turns back to her mother and places her hand on her forehead, wiping her memory. She then does the same thing to her remaining sibling, replacing the memory of Uklin's murder with one where he died of natural causes months ago. She then guides her family to their respective rooms. Frieda instructs Ymir to remain behind, both to guard against future attacks and to search for Eren and Mikasa. Ymir initially protests, but a cold glare from Frieda changes her mind. With her family secure, Frieda steps outside and begins sobbing. Her heart is filled with grief and a seething rage. Vengeance, that's all she wants now. She rises to her feet and races towards the chapel, determined to end Kenny once and for all. Ymir frantically searches every corner of the estate, desperately seeking any signs of Eren and Mikasa, but nothing. They're gone. Does Kenny have them, she wonders? She debates on following after Frieda, but knows better than to leave the Reiss family defenseless, especially after what just happened. Her thoughts are interrupted by the sound of horses. She hides herself from view and watches, bracing for the worst. She believes it's the MPs having come to finish the job, but to her shock, it's the Survey Corps, and riding alongside them is Eren and Mikasa. Have they sold out Frieda, she wonders? Against her better judgment, she races towards the chapel, determined to warn and assist Frieda. But to her horror, the secret door is exposed. Frieda would never make that mistake. Someone followed her in. The scouts encircle the chapel, effectively sealing off any potential escape routes. Prior to the mission, the scouts learned that the chapel was destroyed by bandits the night Walmeria fell. The improbabilities of that story, combined with the mysteries behind Frieda and Grisha, made the chapel a high priority target. Erwin dismounts and is joined by Mike, Hanji, Nanaba, Geliga, Squad Levi, and Eren and Mikasa. They open the chapel door, then find the secret door, and after Erwin gives the signal, they enter it. Kenny hears footsteps. He immediately readies his blade and positions himself beside Rod, preparing for a confrontation. And when he sees Frieda, he greets her by joking about how long she took, and says he was worried he attacked the wrong family. Frieda glances at Rod, tied up to a crystal pillar and unconscious, before glaring at Kenny. In response, Kenny points his blade at Rod and tells her not to move. Frieda asks him why he attacked her family, and Kenny begins a speech on how everything he did was so he could steal the founder and acquire the inner peace Uri had. But as he's speaking, Frieda starts to laugh. She can't believe it. Her family died because Kenny didn't understand how the founder worked. Before Kenny can ask why she's laughing, he notices someone watching them from behind a crystal pillar. When he calls them out, we see Reiner step forward. He reveals his identity as a Marleyan warrior and requests Frieda return with him to the mainland. When Frieda refuses, Annie steps forward and tells Reiner there's no point in talking. He agrees, and the pair transform. The resulting explosion knocks Frieda off her feet, and she transforms to defend herself. Kenny uses his ODM gear to take higher ground and observe the battle. Reiner charges at Frieda, determined to tackle her to the ground. Frieda sidesteps the attack, only to be caught off guard by Annie's jab. Annie then knocks Frieda off balance with a low kick, allowing Reiner to slam her to the ground. But then, Reiner's world goes dark. His eyes have been slashed by Kenny. Kenny is determined to keep Frieda alive. He shouts at her to flee, while he holds them off, but he's refused. Frieda won't listen to her family's murderer. Plus, she's realized that the king's vow isn't stopping her. This might be her only chance to stop Marley. Frieda attacks Reiner, leaving Kenny to hold off Annie. Frieda unleashes a barrage of punches at the blinded Reiner, but but he shrugs them off until one of his eyes heal. He then slams her into a crystal pillar and follows it with a devastating strike to her head, causing Frieda to collapse. Kenny's battle with Annie quickly turns to a stalemate. Kenny doesn't have as much ODM training as his original self, and that, combined with Annie's strike speed, prevents him from landing any decisive strikes. As Reiner prepares to bite Frieda's nape, an explosion occurs behind him. Startled, he turns around, and his face is instantly slashed by the Jaw Titan's claws. Reiner throws Ymir off him, only for Frieda to grab onto his leg, allowing Ymir to attack him again. Despite Reiner's armor, taking down 2 Titan shifters is tricky. Annie wants to help, but can't disengage from her battle with Kenny. The battle appears to be locked in a stalemate, but then we see the scouts atop the ceiling, slowly moving into position. Originally, their only target was Frieda, but after seeing the Jaw, armored, and female Titan, their objective has changed. Now, they're going to capture all of them. Since they didn't bring their Titan restraining equipment, the first strike will decide everything. Erwin gives the signal. Petra and Aluo attack Frieda and Ymir, while Gunther and attack Reiner. Mike attacks Kenny, while Hanji, Nanaba, and Gelga rush to take down Annie. Eren and Mikasa remain hidden behind a pillar, forbidden from joining the battle. Eren hasn't trained his Titan, so him fighting is too risky. The pair were only brought along on the chance they needed to persuade Frieda. Erwin's plan almost works to perfection. Kenny retreats from Annie as Mike pursues him. Frieda, Ymir, and Annie all have their eyes and joints slashed instantly, but Reiner, though blinded, remains standing. Without Thunder Spears, there's no way to bring him down. Once his vision returns, Reiner will have a decision to make. Does he retreat with Annie or stay and fight? This is where I'm gonna leave off now. What do you think Reiner's decision will be? Can Mike defeat Kenny one-on-one? And for how long will Eren go along with Erwin's plan? All that and more will be answered in part 6.